So hello world and welcome to today's programming tutorial. Today, tudluan kamo how to build your own image classifier AI using AutoML. By the end of this tutorial, you will be able to make an AI that can detect kung ang tao nga nasa picture kay nag-face mask or wala nag-face mask. The good thing about this tutorial is that dali ra nimo siya ma-repurpose. Meaning, you can rebuild this to classify a fish, classify fruits, or basically any classification problem na gusto nimo. And the best part, you can start with absolutely zero knowledge sa machine learning. Just an inspiration on how far you can do with this. Recently, na ay project from a doctorate. The project was named Fish-E and it was about a cost-effective and efficient method of performing fish census using underwater camera. Basically, gina-count nila and gina-classify nila ang mga fishes nga naa sa isa ka water area. So, this research is possible by machine learning. Okay, basically, the camera detects the fishes and classify them and then igo na lang dayon gi-count kung pila ka number of that specific fish or species ang naa. Obviously, there is more to it than that, but that is the core of this algorithm. And today, part sa atong ma-learn is how to build something similar. Step number 1, know your labels. Okay, so first thing na to nga buhaton is to know what it is that we are trying to classify. So, in this video, we are going to classify lang if ang tao kay naka-face mask or wala naka-face mask. So, basically, we have two labels. Now, the common term used in machine learning for the results we want in a classification type of problem is a label. So, in our example, we have two labels, face mask and no face mask. To give you another example, let's say mag-classify tag fruits. So, if gusto ka mag-classify if the fruit is an apple, an orange, or a banana, then therefore, ang imong labels kay apple, orange, and banana. Basically, the labels are the result of the classification. Now, our next step is to gather data. But before that, I'd like to quickly run through sa inyo the basic workflow of machine learning, in this case, for a classification problem. So, we start with an input data. And ang ato expectation is that our AI model will output the correct label. So, if we give a picture of banana, it should classify it as a banana. If we give a picture of an apple, it should classify it as an apple. But the question is, how do we do that? How does the AI know? How does the AI able to classify these labels? An AI will know how to classify these labels through training and learning. You see, at the start of our model, the AI will be in a dumb state. So, wala siya kabalo kung unsa ang classify, kung unsa na siya, kung unsa ni nga data, and whatnots. So, in order for it to get smarter, we need to train the AI. We can train the AI by giving it example datasets, or in correct term, training dataset. So, in simple terms, if tagaan mo siya og mga example sa apples, tagaan mo siya example sa oranges, tagaan mo siya example sa banana, etc. And basically, you are letting the AI know which is which by giving it examples. And the more examples you give to it, the better. Now, much like in the real world, how do you know if naka-learn ang usa ka tao? So, that is by giving him a quiz. So, for our AI, we can test its learning by letting it classify something on its own. Most especially if tagaan mo siya og data nga wala pa niya nakita before, and then check if sakto ang iyang guess or not. If it's wrong, then we just tell it what's the answer. So again, let's give a recap for our example. We gave the AI examples of, let's say, mga tao nga naka-face mask. Then we also gave the AI an examples of mga tao nga wala naka-face mask. After giving it examples, we now test the AI by giving it different pictures of mga wala pa niya nakita before, and then letting the AI guess on its own and see if the AI is correct or accurate. If the AI is wrong, then we can tell the AI what's the correct answer para maka-learn siya, and then it will become better and better the more examples you give to it, the more training data and the more test data you give to it, it will become better and better. We can then repeat this process until our AI forms a more accurate algorithm to determine the labels in our set. Okay, so step 2 sa atong process is about gathering data. So right now, since ang atong target na labels are naka-face mask and wala naka-face mask, then in order for us to train our AI, we'll be needing images sa mga tao nga naka-face mask and wala naka-face mask. So for this, we can just use Google Images. Actually, there are more legit na pwede kuhaan, but for our case, let's just use Google Images. So let's say we want the face mask. So yan, you'll get a lot of results for the face mask, and we want to download pictures na we think can be a good input para sa training sa AI. So to download this, of course, you can just right click and then save image as. But then there's another tool that you can use if you're using Chrome. You can download from Chrome Web Store the Image Assistant Batch Image Downloader. So what this does is that it helps you download multiple images from Google Images search results. Let's say for example right here, pwede na ako ni siya, once the plugin was installed or the extension was installed, pwede na ako siya i-click, and then I can just click on extract current page. So when I do that, it gives me this new page here where I can select multiple images. So if let's say I want this to be included sa training data natin, I want this to be included, I want this to be included, this one, I want this one to be included for a different angle, this one, this one, this one. So you can just click on them, and then if you're happy of your selection, pwede mo na silang i-download. So you can just click on download selected, and then when you are prompted for this, it just asked for the download location. You just click on continue. So it will download everything na you've chosen, and then you can just click on show in folder, and your images should be there according to the date that you've downloaded them. So there. Okay, so once you have downloaded a significant number of datasets or images, for in our case, you can put them on their respective label na folder. So you can create a folder and then name it with the label. So for example, I want to label it mask for all mga images na naka-mask, and then not mask for all images nga wala naka-mask. So as you can see, around 100 plus pictures akong gibutang for each of the labels here. So after that one, you can just highlight them, and then you can now zip this into an archive. And then the result now, you can use this for our next part of this step. Just a side note, no, we are actually just using mga dataset that we got from Google Images and then putting them as fast as I can, while also trying to pick good images. Pero in reality, if you really want this to be put in a production environment, then definitely choose sources wisely. Para ang imong mga data, ang imong mga examples to your AI would be better. And remember, the accuracy of your AI and how good it is will depend on the data that you will feed to it. So since this is a newbie tutorial, we will be using a new technique called AutoML. Particularly Google's AutoML using Firebase. AutoML expands the kinds of organizations and individuals nga makagamit og AI by offering them easy-to-use workflow nga nag-require og no prior machine learning experience. So it's actually really nice if you just want to get a feel of the power of AI and machine learning without worrying too much of coding your own neural network. So we'll get to that advanced stuff in the future videos, but for now, we will leverage this service para ang Firebase or Google AutoML na ang automatic nga mag-come up of best model for the problem based on the dataset that we feed to it. We will be using AutoML from Firebase, which is actually owned by Google. Make sure to register to Firebase, and then you can create or add a project. So just add the project, create your name here, let's say our Face Mask AI. Then you can click on continue. Then just click on continue again. Select Google account, default, create project. Once na create ang project, you will be greeted with this one. You can just go to the machine learning tab here and then click on get started. So for this, we will be choosing AutoML, of course. There's a bunch, by the way, there's a bunch of API for machine learning that they have here already pre-modeled and pre-trained. So you can use them if you have projects with similar problem na ginatakal. But for us, we'll be using AutoML. So for this one, let's just click on get started and continue. Once the initial setup is completed, you can add your dataset here. Remember that we are starting with a Spark plan. It's free, but you can upgrade this into a Blaze plan if you want to get more features. It actually also starts free, but you just need to put in your credit card. Para if ever you will be needing more, then they can upgrade automatically. So we can choose add dataset. So for this, we choose multi-label or single-label classification. So what this means is that multi-label meaning if maghatag taog isa ka image, there will be a lot of labels na ihatag as result for that image. For example, an image na itong ihatag is, let's say, pineapple. So pwede ang yung label adto is that it's pineapple and then it's a fruit. But in our case, we just want face mask or not face mask. Therefore, ang result that we really want or keen into is just one label. So that's why we choose single label classification. So atong dataset, let's call it face mask dataset. And then let's just click on create. So once this is added here, now pwede na nato ma-upload ang ato ang zip file na gibuhat earlier. So this is the zip file that we created earlier from our dataset. So again, inani ang sample niya structure. So that's what we did, and then we zip it, and now we can upload it here. Once the dataset is uploaded, you can now have the option to choose your latency and package size. So basically, this means is how would you want your AI to be in terms of your accuracy and latency. So if you choose lowest latency, meaning your AI is actually a lot faster in terms of paghatag og response, but then the trade-off will be that the accuracy is typically lower. If you want the AI with higher accuracy, usually it will have a higher latency as well, meaning mas dugay siya gamay nga maghatag og response for labeling your problem set. Once the training is completed, which takes about like 3 to 4 hours depending on your data set and your settings, the result will be a model. So you go to view, you view the training, and makita nimo din ang different statistics of the training result, like the precision and then the latency of resulting model. So before we download our model, let's just test it first by clicking on test model, and then let's try this is a data or a picture na wala na ko gi-upload dito sa training para wala ganyan niya ever nakita. So let's just test if this model can label this image properly. Okay, good. So the result is that the model is actually masked 88.6%. That's the confidence level, and then not masked. When we program this, definitely we will need to take the highest confidence level na result. So masked, and therefore it's correct. Let's try another test. Bale, so this one wala dyan po niya nakita sa ihang training. So we can just use this and let's see if ang iyang confidence level ani the topmost confidence level for this would be not mask. There you go. So 87.8% not mask. So therefore ang iyang label ani is not mask. So karon makita na to that our AI is actually predicting pretty well. Well, not as well because there is a 12.5% nga mask yung pagtanaw ani, but we can improve that by putting more and more mas better nga dataset para sa ato ang AI. So now na we already tested our model and we see na okay naman siya, then we can now use this model. So by using the model, we can publish this or download. So for our case, if you want this to use with our app or anything else, we can download this para local lang siya. But if you want to access your model remotely, you can also choose publish. So after you downloaded the model, you can unzip it, and then inside, meron kayong tatlong files. The dictionary contains the labels for your classification. The manifest contains the metadata about this model. And then the TF Lite is what we're most particular about kasi ito yung gagamitin natin to predict and to classify the labels in our application. So you can use this in many programming languages. Most of the modern AI libraries, they already support TF Lite models. So this is our project code for this classification project. Basically, nag-choose lang ako ang Python notebook because I can code and then I can show you the result interactively. And I will be putting this to GitHub or a repository para you can download this and then try or customize for yourself. So we have like folders here. The first folder is the Face Mask model. So it has the dictionary, the manifest, and most importantly, the model TF Lite. We also have some test images here na I just downloaded. So these are test images that we will try later. And then, of course, our Python notebook where we will be putting our code, and then we will be using in this code the model that we just downloaded. But before anything else, I'd like to showcase lang sa inyo some brief intro on neural networks. Basically, there's a lot of ways that you can do this classification problem. There's some classic na machine learning algorithms already available, but one quite popular nowadays is by the use of neural networks. Since we're doing an image classification, then of course, we need the computer to understand our image. Kung atong ihatag lang ng image alone to the computer as is, most probably it will not understand it. So we will need to find a way na masabtan sa computer. And the best way that a computer can understand something is by converting something into a number or something that it can crunch into and compute. We can actually convert an image to like some sort of a number. So there's a lot of ways that people or the programmers can do this, but one way is, for example, by using this one. So for example, we have an image here, and then let's say ang gibuhat dan ni nagimo siya og let's say I haven't counted this, but let's say for example na ay 12 by 12 na array, and then each of those element in the array nagrepresent siya sa data na naa ni sa image. So kung ato ning i-subdivide ang image, makita nato na kung unsa siya ka dark, bale muna ang value niya nga naa dinhi. So makita nato this is 0.6, 0.7, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0.4, 0.4, 0.7. So iyang gibuhatan is gi-range niya from 0 to 1. So inana yung gipang convert, and then now I actually have a basic kumbaga na siya representation of that image. So this is actually what we're also doing in our case. We are just converting this image into something that the computer will understand. So we are putting then the result into an input layer. So in neural networks, we have an input layer, a hidden layer, and an output layer. So, simple lang yung output layer. Basically, this is the nodes, kumbaga, makita na to dinhi, or the neurons rather, nga kung unsa ang ato ang mga labels or unsa ang gusto nato ng mga output that our model will be doing. So, for example, sa kaninga case, dog or cat, or sa ato ang current project na case, it will be like naka-face mask ba or wala naka-face mask. The input one is the data na based sa atong gihatag nga input. So in this case is the image, so image of this dog. So it will be the same every time na ato ning ibutang kani nga specific nga dog. So ang gibuhat lang siguro ani is that gi-subdivide niya ang image into crunchable numbers and then gibutang into inputs. So like for example, hundreds of elements in a multidimensional array. And then the hidden layer is actually where the magic happens. This is where the training or your AI will try to fiddle, kumbaga iyaning kubi-kubian until it finds the best na configuration for the hidden layers to arrive to the output that we are expecting for this one. So for example, kung atong i-train ang atong AI lugar nga dog, and then the dog will have its specific input baling layer, ang mahitabuan na sa hidden layer is what the AI will try to find out is unsa ang pangbuhaton niya dani sa hidden layers so that it will arrive to the output na dog. So kung nasayop siya into cat, we will let the AI know na sayop siya. So iyan na po din yung ipang-change na ni tanan. So what do I mean by change is that each of these neurons actually has an activation function. So more on advanced na nga topic later on. But imagine na lang nga naani siya yung mga functions dani. Like for example, adan niya 1 danhi, subtract niya 2 danhi, or divide niya by 3 danhi. So those activation functions are actually nasa inside each of the neurons, and then buhaton na niya for each of the input na gipadulong dadto. So this is going to be more complex ko ako na-explain in further details, but just think of this as the layer where the AI trainings or the fiddling happens para ang atong input mo arrive into the output that we wanted it to be. Okay, so we will explain this and we will explore this further in the future videos, but for now, just know that we have an input, a hidden, and an output layers. So again, we have an input, and then we have the hidden layers and then the output layer. So the hidden layers is where the magic happens. So since we're using AutoML, Firebase AutoML or Google AutoML tries its best to, based on sa mga experiences nila sa AI nila, they transfer that learning into this para mas quicker ang pag-identify on what the best hidden layers configuration para gamiton sa imuhang project for this one. So we're using an image classification problem. So Google already have a lot of those problems na na-solve before. So they're transferring the learning and then ilada yung i-configure ang imong hidden layer automatically. That's why it's AutoML. So okay, we're finally getting into the code. So if you don't have this kind of setup, you just need to install Anaconda if you're on Windows. And Pillow, additional package. Kasi ang Anaconda, gina-install na niya tanan the dependencies na mong kailangan that you will be able to do all of these things. Sige, so this one I import a TensorFlow Core Lite and then doing an alias of TF-Lite. This will be the package that we will use para we can use TF-Lite models in our application or in our program. And then of course NumPy or NumPy, whichever you prefer to call it. This is used for number crunching, Pillow for handling images. This one, I just created some constants here or variable shader na that is pointing to our model's path, labels path, and image path. So the model path is the TF-Lite model. The labels path is our dictionary that contains the labels. And then the image path is the current image na gusto nato i-test. For example, this one, test images sample 1. So this is the one that we're going to test para makabalota kung masked or not masked ba iyang result ani. And then I've created some helper na functions here. So load labels function is just going to open up our labels file na naadanhi, and then gonna read lines just so you can see the labels na sulod adto nga dictionary. And then load image as tensor data. So mo na akong example earlier na there are a lot of ways na you can represent an image into something na understand sa computer and it can crunch and compute. So this one, we are loading our image gikan sa katong image path nato, and then we are resizing this to the width and the height of our input na layer. Later on ako i-explain. And then we're just using NumPy to expand DIMMs. Basically, just to make it easier for the beginners, is just converting your image into numbers, or particularly an array of numbers that the computer will understand. This one, we're just loading the labels. So, kung ato ning i-run, and then this one will run this, makita nyo sa ubos nga gibutang niya dito sa labels na variable not mask and then mask, which is gikan sa atong dictionary.txt or dict.txt. And then we're loading our interpreter here. So tflight.interpreter is ato model path dayon nato is katong model path sa taas, which is this model.tflight path. And then that is our interpreter. So we are using our model para sa itong interpreter. And then this right here, we are actually allocating tensors to our interpreter. So kung remember ninyo kaganiha danhi, these nodes here can actually be represented also as tensors. Tensors is actually a generalization of vectors or matrices that can easily be understood as a multidimensional array. Think of it na lang as kanang multidimensional array na mura siyag slots or containers na gamiton sa tuwang AI model to compute an input or to hold an input or a number, kumbaga, to arrive to an output. So imagine na lang mo ni siya ang ato ang mga tensors bale. So this one, it automatically allocate the tensors for us based on the model that we give to it. Again, the models are already trained, so ang models na-contain na siya sa information on how many tensors it needs, and mo ni ang ginabuhat ani ang ginallocate ang needed tensors, or instantiating those tensors rather, putting some space up. So next up is getting the input and output tensor definitions from our trained model. So gikuha na to ang input details and output details. So basically ang gabuhaton danhi, kaning get input details is basically ato lang ginakuha ang mga details sa input models niya. So how it arrives to that certain number of nodes in that layer. And then get output details is basically gikuha lang niya ang different na mga details na to for the output layer nga kailangan. So muna siya. And then this one, I'm just saving this to our height and width para makita na to kung unsa ang result gikan sa ato ang pag-train sa model. So this one, makita na to ato ning i-run, makita na to na the height is 224 and then the width is 224. That was set by our model. And then this is the input details and this is the output details. So makita na to sa itong output details na natay name, scores, index. For now, just don't matter this one. We will learn this further sa mga next up na mga videos. But just note nga basically ato rang gina-plaster ang ato ang model para magamit nato siya. So now we are loading the image tensor data. Imagine na lang ninyo na kanisya, it's actually blank pa ni siya nga state. We just allocated this kaganiha. And then now that we have our image, or in our case, natay image na kani, we are just using this image. So ato siyang gibutang dito sa itong method kaganiha. If you remember, load image as tensor data. Remember din sa taas. So ato lang ang load image as tensor data, and then we set it to the width and height na sa ato ang input model. So, makita na to din sa input. So, depende na siya. For example, ang input is kind of like this. So, iya lang i-fit ang image into something like this. It converts to a number that can be crunched by the computer. So, muna siya. So, ang sulod niya is actually an array of numbers, multidimensional array of numbers. Then now, we are going to set tensor, the input details. So basically atong sudlan na ni ang input nato. So again, blank ni siya ganiha, we just allocated the space, and then ibutang na din nato dayon ang image tensor data into that one. So get tensor, output details, and then ato din siyang gibutang dito ang ato ang image. So the result is we squeeze the result of this image into the output data. So imagine na lang gibutang nato ang details na dinhi. And then now we actually have already the results. So, kung ato nang tanawon ang image tensor data, ako nang i-print danhi, nani na siya result actually. So, it's actually like an array or multi-dimensional array of numbers. Alright, so, now, I'm just sorting the result para ang una mo gawas danhi is the biggest confidence bali nga to ang model or AI. And then, we're loading the labels, gikan sa atong load labels, gikan sa atong labels path. And then, now, we're atong gina-print ra dayon ang result. And then this one, I'm just importing this matplotlib and then pyplot. You can actually just also use pillow for this case. Basically, ang gabuhaton na niyan is ginapakita lang ato ang image na gi-output. So, kung ato ni i-run, makita nato nga ang result niya is 87.4. So, this is actually 1 ang pinakadako, 1 meaning 100%. So, this means 87.4% nga yaning na-identify or na-label as mask ang image. And then, 12% nga na-label niya as not mask. So, since ato man gi-sort out mo nang ang pinakaunang gigawas na ni is mask. So, therefore, sakto ang pag-identify sa ato ang model ani. So, that's good. And let's try to change this to a different sample. So, this one, muna itong sample 2, wala siya naka-mask, nag-smile lang siya dira. And let's try to rerun all of this. Ato nang i-rerun. And makita na to din, ang result is that 84.3% or 0.843. Again, 1 ang pinakadakuan ni, 1 being 100%. So, meaning ani 84.3% not mask. And then, 16% nga mask. So, it's also actually correct. Lastly, we will be using this final na to nga sample para i-test na tong AI no kung iya pong mabawaan na kani siya nga picture or this image naka-mask ba ang tao or wala. So, try na to kung matrick ba na to ang AI or if we have given it enough na sample data para maka-identify siya unsa ang naka-mask or wala naka-mask o unsa ang tinuod gadagway sa kaning fake nga gibutang lang sa mask. So, let's try that sample3.jpg danhi. And then let's try to rerun. And there you go. So, naglisod siya. So, it's 50%, 50.5% mask, and then 49.8% not mask. Let's try to rerun again. And then, boom. So, nakita na to nung one reason for this one is that probably wala ta naghatag og kanang more examples sa iya sa mga similar inani nga cases. So, if we want this AI nga mas mo-enhance siya, we can give more examples inani and then we can label it as mask. So, that's how we can improve this. But then, at least, ang iya pong end result ani is mask. But it's very, very thin nga line, kumbaga. So, there you go. This is the basic of using AutoML. Don't worry about all of this code. Kay again, butan ako sa description below. There's actually a very easy way or 1 to 2 lines of code lang. Magamit nimo na siya sa iOS or mong Android nga app. So you can follow that one. But this one, I'm just giving this an example para ma-follow ninyo ang thought process on using this TF Lite sa Python na itong code. Definitely, you can use this sa imong website projects, sa imong mobile projects, anywhere where TF Lite model is supported. So, kana lang. And thank you so much for being here sa imong time. In the next up na mga videos, I will be posting more mga AI-related na mga content for beginners and for those na nanay mga experience. So, we will tackle deeper na mga subjects. Thank you and don't forget to like and subscribe.